All right, let's do another episode of Storytime with Catalina. Meet Tony Masters, also known as Taskmaster. Tony here. Is it okay if I just call him Tony? Well, Tony was born with photographic reflexes, and with that ability, he was able to watch other people's movement and duplicate them without having to practice, no matter how complex. He's gone toe to toe with some of the greats: Captain America, Black Panther, Daredevil, Elektra, Spider Man, among many, many others. I can't say this for sure, but comic book fans claim that Taskmaster has won some of those fights. So, when it comes down to it, Tony is a menace. Heroes and villains around the world respect his skills alike. But you see, Tony here had a problem. A certain family had an incident with their little daughter. That little girl spent 10 years in an induced coma, and when she woke up, she was now under the care of this new group called Hydra. You might have heard of them. Their leader immediately knew they had a diamond in the rough, so they called the Taskmaster to train their new protege in hand-to-hand combat. Hydra grabbed Tony's interest because there was gaslighting their girl as the best thing since sliced bread. So he wanted to see these powers for himself. Remember when I said Tony had photographic reflexes? Let me show you another way he uses this ability. When he met Hydra's protege face to face, he was like, alright, hit me with these powers I keep hearing about. But the girl was confused, and without saying another word, he threw some knives at her, and she reacted accordingly by dodging out of the way and blasting him with the powers. It was a direct hit, but he let himself be hit on purpose. Why would anyone do that, you ask? Well, he wanted to know what she was capable of, and now that he saw her, he learned what she can do, and therefore he can train her adequately. So it was made official. Taskmaster accepted the job from Hydra to take their young protege under his wing and share with her his knowledge in hand-to-hand combat. 3 months later, Taskmaster was supervising his student spar with some Hydra soldiers, bums. She was really feeling herself because she had come a long way, but Taskmaster Sensei was not impressed. The student didn't like the master's words, so she started swinging at her sensei with the utmost disrespect. But even with the 7 different martial arts styles that she had learned, she still wasn't a match for Taskmaster. So he did what any sensei would do to an irreverent and unsubordinate student. He humbled her. Sometime later, it's not clear how much Taskmaster had been training his student at this point, but it must have been a while because now she had her own uniform. She was also close to doing field missions, but Taskmaster Sensei was like, we'll see about that. And his student was like, oh, okay, bet. She surprised her sensei with a kick, and they went at it for just a second. No one really got the advantage because the sparring session was interrupted. It was time. Hydra's protege got the call to get ready for her first mission. During her mission, however, she encountered one Nick Fury who told her the truth about Hydra, and he dropped enough receipts that she ended up deserting the organization. But here's the problem with that. After all the time and effort Hydra put into their protege for her to just leave, they weren't gonna let that slide. You see, Hydra is like a toxic ex. They could not accept that their girl didn't want to be with them anymore, so they searched heaven and earth until they found her. And to their surprise, she was living her best life. Their former protege was out here enjoying herself like she wasn't a trained assassin by a terrorist organization. Hydra was not having that, so they tried to kill her right then and there. There was a brawl, and she managed to get out of there just to run into her old sensei who was waiting outside. Taskmaster was disgusted by his former student. He could not believe she was running away from a 1v24 fight. He launched, coming in hot with a sword in one hand and a pistol in the other. He was going for broke, but this fight was close. Both of them were landing shots on each other. Neither could get a decisive advantage until he dropped her and got ready to deliver a fatal blow. Remember how I said Tony had a problem? You see, Tony's problem has always been that he thinks he's the main character of the story. He had to find out the hard way that when the credits roll out, his name was not on top. Tony went for the kill, but he missed, lost his footing and his sword, and before he could do anything, his former Padawan stabbed him through the torso with his own sword. She actually took the time to let her old sensei know how much she thought about this moment. And listen, we all been there. We dream of the day we beat our masters, older siblings, your teammates, or rivals. You get what I mean? This must have been an accelerating moment. Can you imagine? The student finally beats the master, the circle of life, and all of that. Listen, people say many things about Tony Masters, but a bad teacher is not one of them. He taught her so well. Even the master of Kung Fu, Zhang Shi, praised his student many years later. But back to this scene again. Let's not undersell this moment. Taskmaster got his smile beat off his teeth by his student while she was wearing high heels and a dress with no straps. Her words, not mine. Sadly for Tony, they were not on the same level anymore. To put the cherry on top, Tony got publicly embarrassed even further when he was turned into a human lightning rod by his former student in front of all his Hydra buddies. This will be a recurring theme between the sensei and his former student. Not the fighting per se, oh no. I mean the bullying and embarrassment to our guy Tony by his former student. To the point where he will even avoid fighting her in the future. You heard me right. The villain known as Taskmaster with the hands rated E for everyone, the Can Man, because everyone can get it, will not fight his best student, one Jessica Miriam Drew, who went on to become the Spider-Woman.